Coming up next on All About Android, it's the first episode of 2022. It's me, Jason Howell, Ron Richards, and our guest, Ryan Hager from Android Police. Ryan actually goes hands-on with the newly announced and revealed Galaxy S21 Fan Edition. Also, the OnePlus 10 Pro is getting official. We've got plenty of details there. Android 13 Tiramisu, that's right, not Android 12L, but the next version of Android is apparently Tiramisu. Pixel 6 update delays galore. So many delays. More disappointment for Surface Duo owners, and we spend some quality time with the Android Hall of Fame. All that more coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Streak. Whether you're tracking sales, fundraising, hiring, or support, Streak is a CRM that will help you stay on top of all your processes directly inside Gmail. Get 20% off your first year of their Pro plan, their most popular option, by the way, by going to streak.com/AAA. Hello, welcome to All About Android, episode 558, recorded on Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. It's going to be taking me some time to get used to saying that. We are your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. If I had a newsmaker, I'd sound it right now, but I don't.
This is my first podcast of 2022, by the way. This is fantastic.
Oh.
And this is the first show of 2022. It's the first foray of Android into a new, I was going to say a new decade, but it's another year.
New era, if an era
yeah.
is a year.
Yeah, exactly. But we made it.
Congratulations.
We made it. So, but yeah, we did it. I'm very proud of us. So
I'm very proud of you, world, for bringing Android into the next year. It's still going. Android. There's no signs of Android slowing, and that's a good thing because we do a show about Android, and that would be kind of awkward because then we'd have to try and figure out what else we do.
Yep.
So joining us to meander through I don't know, it kind of feels like a little bit of a lightish news week this week, which is strange because CES is apparently happening right now. But anyways, Ryan Hager from Android Police, thanks for joining us in these muddy waters of slowish Android news today.
It is great to be here, and I do think it has been at least a little slow this week.
And I realize I say that, but then at the same time in the pre-show, you were just talking about how many NDAs we're lifting because this is, after all, CES week, right? We all in tech news, we come back from the holiday break, whatever we're able and fortunate to get, right into CES, Consumer Electronics Show. But this year feels a little different, at least to me. I feel like there's a little bit less excitement, a little bit less buzz, but it doesn't sound like there's less work for you guys.
No, we are still hard at work, and I'm only saying that it's a slow week because it is Tuesday, and there's more to come.
Yeah, because the week itself is actually crawling along slowly. That's the slowness. That makes sense.
I feel like
part of it. Yeah.
I do like to enjoy this moment in time, at least Jason, to do our annual. I'm so glad I'm not at CES. Despite even especially now during the pandemic and the such, but still it's just even if things were normal, it's I don't have to fly to Vegas, fantastic kind of feeling that we have every year at this time.
Yeah, exactly. Now more than ever, I'm really happy to not be in Vegas for CES. I would feel a little vulnerable if I was wandering around at CES right now. But usually, I'm pretty okay with the fact that I'm not there and kind of reporting on it from the sidelines. So, of course, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we've learned about from CES that's Android related, but. In a nutshell, Ryan, how does the news trickling out of Vegas from CES rate for you in as far as the last 5 years? Is it pretty slow all around, or are you seeing a different CES than I'm seeing?
Well, I think it's pretty slow, and I think trickling is also kind of the operative word. Some of the bigger news, like the OnePlus 10 Pro, I can talk about it now because the embargo went up 17 minutes ago. OnePlus is back into true form, dribbling out details bit by bit over the coming who knows how long. Yesterday it was what did they gave us renders. They're like, it's a design. Here's the design. And today we get to talk about specs. So there are a handful of specs that are public as of 17 minutes ago. But yeah,
awesome.
It's just that scale. It's dribbling out. None of this is happening at the sort of scale that would have happened even 4 or 5 years ago, it seems to me.
Yes. All right. Well, hold on to OnePlus 10 Pro because, well, I had it in the rundown from yesterday's news, and now I've got a new story to add. So I guess, Burke, be on the lookout for that link once I add that, and we'll talk about that when we get to hardware. So apparently we have breaking news. We don't need to do the bumper right now, but we've got stuff to talk about. Before we get to the hardware, though, let's talk about the news and give Burke, your Happy New Year opportunity to give us a news bumper right now. No pressure.
Well, I don't mind talking about tiramisu every week, so it's good.
Oh.
It's in the Android news.
Yes, this is true. Tiramisu in the Android news. All right, Ron, you got it.
Let's do it.
That's all right.
All right. So it wouldn't be another year of All About Android without talking about the next version of Android. And here we are. And I'm not talking about Android 12L. That's old news, everybody. But rather Android 13, which, thanks to a source with access to a very early build of Android 13, told XDA that it is codenamed Tiramisu. And I got to say, before I get into any actual details of it, this is now the second time. I do not like this anticlimactic revealing of the name before it all starts. Like, where's the fun in this now? There was no speculation of what the name was. Jason, we didn't get to go over the desserts that start with T's. We didn't ask guests what they thought it was going to be. Now it's just like, oh, it's tiramisu. Move on.
Yeah, whatever. It's tiramisu.
Man,
it
was the highlight.
What do you expect?
The highlight of so many things.
So true.
But so Android 13, codenamed Tiramisu's got app languages, codenamed Panlingual. Currently switching languages happens at the macro system-wide level. This is a new feature that would allow per-app language selection, which is really cool, actually, when you think about it. Runtime permission for notifications. Notifications could be an opt-in setting in the same way location and camera access is prompted at the first use, and this could definitely help you cut down on that notification spam. It'd be great. I got to admit, giving the access to location or camera or file storage when you install the app for the first time is such a great way to clearly know what's going on with the app, and being able to control notifications at that level would be awesome. Then this one I thought was really interesting, called TARE, T-A-R-E, which is an acronym for the Android Resource Economy, and earned credits. And these are earned credits an app can use as currency to be able to perform tasks when the battery of the device is depleted.
That's so interesting to me. I'm curious to see what that actually ends up being.
It allows you to it allows the developer to prioritize functions within the app based off battery availability. So, like, of all the 30 things this app can do, if you're running out of battery, make sure you do these 3 things first. Like, that's like crazy.
It's sort of like applying the market solution to engineering, right? You're instead of trying to dictate how, can this app do this? Can this app do that? Do we need to tier this? They're like, no, here are credits. Spend them as you see fit.
But how do you earn credit? And obviously, this is super early, like speculation, right? This is just a fun thought exercise. But how would a developer of an app or how would an app in general earn credits? Like, it really is kind of like a marketplace for the battery.
I don't think we know.
So interesting.
I don't think we know quite how it's going to work just yet, but I'm sure there's some sort of system they'll talk about later that, I don't know, maybe when the battery hits a certain level, all apps get credits, or apps that doze more aggressively or do less background sync, or that use Firebase for notification delivery. Maybe they'll get more or less, and it can like adjust things so that it's more efficient. Apps that are more efficient get more credits or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting concept. Given Google can actually create a system that is fair in making that analysis and justifying, the choice and saying, okay, well, this app has been doing really good, so we'll go ahead and allow that app to do what it wants to do because the battery is low. But this app over here, you don't get to do anything because we've deemed you unworthy. I don't know. They got to do that right. Otherwise, they're going to tick a lot of people off.
But they can
That's for
probably
sure.
automate all of it. So they can just make sure that, like this says, it's already keeping track of alarms and job schedules. So it can probably just look at what an app wants to do, how often it wants to wake up, and have some sort of schedule for credits it assigns based on that. But I'd be guessing.
Yeah. No, that all makes sense. Interesting.
I just like the idea of an open economy within the operating system.
Yeah. Totally.
And and then like does this pay, I mean, like, to the point you're making, does it pave the way for apps to compete in priority from app to app? Like, can you invest in an app and give it more credit than another app? I just think it's super fascinating. So
or could a user of the app say, my preference is this app over that app, and if there's a hierarchy, I want this app to always get it, versus like the system deciding that based on the credits that it doles out. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how that develops over time.
Yep. So, but of course, it wouldn't be an Android operating system update without some sort of lock screen change. And this is the lock screen clock layouts, and it's just a simple way to tweak the look of the clock on the lock screen, which, it's the 13th version of Android. You think we would have had that by now, but here we are. So it's coming. We knew it was coming. Jason, I feel like on the last show that we did before the end of the year, we're like, it'll just be a matter of time before we're talking about the next version. And here we are.
And here we go. That's all it took, was mentioning that it's probably right around the corner. And then someone watched the show, and then, they contacted XDA. This is probably how it worked behind the scenes. I'm assuming they probably said, hey, I saw on All About Android, they really wanted to know about the next version. Well, I happen to have it, and I'll give it to you, XDA, and then they'll talk about it on the next show. And here we are. It's just how this crazy world works.
Indeed.
So, are we more excited for Android 12L or Android 13 Tiramisu at this point?
That's a good question.
What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know if we have like a release date or anything yet for Android 12L, but Android 12L is a much more incremental update. It's just targeting big screen foldable devices with added features on top of Android 12. I know a couple of other changes are coming, like that lock screen tweak that was mentioned in here is also probably going to land as part of Android 12L. And there are a couple of UI changes meant to accommodate bigger screens, but I think Android 13 is going to be a bigger update.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
probably not
as the numbers would
12
suggest,
big.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not as much of an update, an obvious update as what we've seen with Android 12L. Or sorry, Android 12, not L. But hey, who knows? Maybe they'll redo Material U and turn it into something completely different. And all it took was a version. I highly doubt that. Let's see here. What else do we have? So this is an interesting saga, is the fact that, so I've got a Pixel 6. I know 6 Pro. Ron, you got the 6. Ryan, what's your phone? Are you on a Pixel or are you on something else?
I'm using, and I think we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but I'm using the S21 FE.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
What is your daily driver? What is your phone?
I don't have a daily driver. My job.
You just hop
prevents me
between.
from having a daily driver.
Yeah, fair enough.
So if somebody calls you, then is it just there's 6 phones
Wherever
on the
SIM
table
is
and
installed.
you're constantly picking it up?
I do not half-ass my job. My primary SIM is in whichever phone I'm reviewing or whichever phone I'm looking at for coverage. So I don't.
That's the way to
have
do
a
it.
personal phone. Yeah.
Yep. That's the way to do it. I mean, I always have a personal phone, but if I've got a review device, my SIM goes into the review device. And then my indication of whether I really like that phone or not is how quickly I move my SIM back over to whatever my phone is, And if it's like a month and a half long, out, and my SIM's still in that review device, I'm like, okay, this is actually a pretty great phone if I'm not rushing to get it out of here. So I feel you. Well, if you have the Pixel 6 or the 6 Pro, you probably have realized, and we've talked on the show previously, that the December update was like delayed. And then ultimately Google just 5 days ago officially pulled the plug on the Pixel 6 December update. They just finally gave up because apparently there were issues with this update that were plaguing the devices that it did install onto. Now, actually, Ryan, you actually wrote about this, so I should ask you, what were some of these issues that users who got this update were seeing on their Pixel 6s?
So I spoke to Google about the issue. I guess it was primarily regarding call connectivity and dropped calls. Just people were having trouble placing calls reliably on their Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro running the December update. And we looked for it, and I couldn't find too many reports regarding this particular issue. And I think at least part of that had to do with the fact that Google either pulled the update or slowed the rollout long before it actually yanked it. Because in like the week and a half leading up to them actually pulling it, everybody was asking, where is this update? Why don't we have it? And it seemingly they either slowed or stalled the update before they announced actually yanking it. And a fix was promised in the January update, but at the time Google said, the January update will be in mid-January, which was, unusual. We were like, oh no, it usually lands on the first Monday of the month, maybe Tuesday if there's a holiday like today. But turns out that was just for the, that delay only applied to the Pixel 6.
So now we're in a position where, we're going to be getting this update sometime by the end of the month. And when it happens, we're going to get some features that we've been waiting for. On the Pixel 6 Pro, primarily, there's the ultra-wideband chip on the device that, for whatever reason, Google launched the device without support for UWB active. And apparently this update's going to fire that up. I don't know, it just feels kind of sloppy. Like, I feel like the delayed update, there obviously, there's reasons why this stuff happens, and I have to, we have to kind of accept the fact that we don't know exactly why these things delay the way they do. They run into an issue. Of course, we're not going to assume that Google's going to put out buggy software and just keep it out, because what we want more than anything is an update of any kind. But the delay in the updates is going to be 2 months by the time we actually get one on this brand new device. UWB was a feature that, some people were actually really looking forward to. And, you still had to wait a couple of months for it to be activated. It's just one of those situations where you're like, oh, God, do better than that, Google. If you can, please do better than that, because that's
not just that.
Not
it
ideal.
Was the whole December feature drop update, right? So like all of the feature drop features that landed with the December update didn't hit the Pixel 6 because nobody got the update. And now it's delayed until mid-January. So the now playing search, the expansion of car crash detection, more languages for Google Recorder, a bunch of other stuff, quick tap for Snapchat. I think all of that stuff is tied behind the December feature drop update. So not just the UWB, but a bunch of features people were looking forward to.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, again, just kind of lame to get Google's latest and greatest and then end up, faced with that. The update for those of you who are on devices that are Pixels but aren't the Pixel 6, if you're getting a security update, the January security update is rolling out now for all those other phones. And it will fix the 911 Microsoft Teams bug that we discussed last month, where, for the phone was strangely calling 911 and it had something to do with Microsoft Teams being unsigned in on the device.
That one.
So this is it's mind-boggling. Actually, we got an email. It didn't make it into the show today, but from someone who it had happened to. And reading through his account, I actually probably should have put it in. So my apologies to you who emailed that in. But it's just one of those situations where you're like, oh, that would be a nightmare. Like every time, he turned around, the phone was calling 911 again. He's like, why does this keep happening? And if you got a phone that's doing that, you're going to have to wait until the end of January for it to be fixed, which is kind of lame in and of itself. So that's where we're at. All right, Ron, you got the next one.
Oh, man. I do have the next one. So we all remember here, Ryan, you probably remember it, and Jason, I know you do, the classic Galaxy X, Samsung Galaxy S3, which launched in 2012, right? That's a legendary phone.
It is a legendary phone.
It is. It's getting Android 12, believe it or not. Thanks to the modding community, of course. An unofficial Lineage OS version 19 custom ROM based on Android 12. The ROM itself is limited for compatibility. And of course, as you can imagine, there are some bugs. But they actually posted a video of it running, and you can see it. Those are folks who are watching the video. We've got it running here, and it shows the system operates pretty smoothly considering the fact that it is a 10-year-old device running what is close to an equivalent of today's operating system. It's not exactly Android 12, but it's sure looks like it. That's for sure. So I just want to know who has the time to do this.
Who has the time to create this or to put this onto that old device? I mean, the modding community, it may not be as vast as it used to be, but it's just as passionate, I have to imagine. People who enjoy modding devices and seeing what you can do, especially taking kind of like a marquee historical device, which actually we have an email about later. We'll get to that a little bit later about this very device. But this is a pretty notable device in the history of Android lore. And to have this very dated device actually running the current version of Android, albeit an edited version of Android, but still the fact that it can even do that, it's actually pretty impressive that you could do this 10 years later. I don't know. I feel so anyways.
Speaks to the skill of the individual and the passion of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Point of fact, merely a day later, somebody got the Galaxy S2 running Android 12 as well.
Wow. So it keeps going backwards. All right. So let's get Android 12 on the Motorola Droid. And then
I would like to see Android 12 on a Nexus 1, please. I would like the little trackball back if I can get it. So.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that trackball. That trackball was great. Why hasn't anyone put a trackball back in a phone, by the way?
I don't know, because we do it with our fingers instead.
I guess, but the trackball allows, Lord knows, whatever, don't get me started, but trying to copy and paste text and pulling the little things and stuff like that. If I had the trackball, I'd be all over that.
BlackBerry did that. That was a BlackBerry thing. And BlackBerry literally, I think today was they officially
went out of business.
That's true. Yeah. That is related piece of news. Nice, Bert.
Yeah, we need a related news bumper, Jason.
Yeah, related news. There you go. That's all we got with no planning or preparation whatsoever. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of CES to talk about up next. So stick around for that. But first, let's thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is actually a new sponsor, Streak. It's great to have Streak on board. It's a startup founder or an entrepreneur. If you are either of these things, you know what it's like running your business from your inbox. It can be, chaotic. I could speak from my own experience anyways. Whether you're tracking sales, fundraising, whether you're hiring or offering support, Streak is a CRM that's actually going to help you stay on top of all of your processes. It's customer relations management. That's what CRM stands for. And even further than that, not only stay on top of all these processes, but directly inside of Gmail that you're already using. Use Streak's free email tools to check if your emails have been opened, so you'll know when they've been opened. You can send bulk emails with automated follow-up emails to improve your response rates. So it really keeps you on top of the process so that you're always getting in touch when you need to. Since Streak is built inside of Gmail, it's actually a part of your everyday workflow. You don't have to think about using another app or, siphoning all of your email into a different location entirely. If you're already using Gmail, that's where it stays. You can see details about your leads, your customers, your investors, all alongside of your email. So no more switching between Gmail and other tools. That's a huge benefit. Whether you're prospecting for new customers, maybe you're raising a fundraising round, or you're growing your team. If you've got a bunch of support tickets that you're managing, you can use Streak pipelines to track all of your processes directly from Gmail. And it's super easy to get started. You can set up your first pipeline super quick. It takes maybe 2 minutes, and you can customize each pipeline based on your individual needs. Streak makes it easy to collaborate by automatically sharing emails and notes with anyone on your team. Streak was actually recognized as Google's Technology Partner of the Year. It's used by thousands of founders, entrepreneurs, small business owners. That's because it works And it's so nice to have that integration in there. The last thing you want is to have to jump out into another tool. The more of that complexity exists, there's speed bumps along the way. And if you are a founder, an entrepreneur, a small business owner, you need that speed, because speed equals time, and you can't get back time. So that's what you need. Try out Streak today. It's free to use on your own, or you can use the Pro plan with your team. Get 20% off your first year of their Pro plan, their most popular option, by the way, by going to streak.com/AAA. I'll spell that out. That's STREAK, streak.com/AAA. Do that and you'll get 20% off. And it's great to have Streak on board. We thank them for their support of All About Android. All right. Well, we've got not one, but two hardware blocks coming up here. Most of it's CES, so let's jump in. It's time for some hardware. And we'll start with a phone that took a little while to become a thing, and now it's a thing, and it's a thing that Ryan has actually written about, because Ryan has that in his hands. It's the Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition. And part of the reason this even exists, I saw this story earlier, that the S20 Fan Edition sold more than 10 million units, and actually in itself went a long way to kind of recovering for Samsung last year. Everybody was super positive about the Fan Edition release of the S20 last year. And so here we are, the S21, although it feels kind of late, right? Like this took a while to see the light of day.
It was definitely delayed because there were rumors that it was going to launch earlier, and then there were rumors it was canceled, and then everybody said it was delayed. Now we finally get it, but it does feel late, and that's because it is. And I do feel like that has an impact on how good of a phone it is. The market it's entering. It's a different situation than if it had landed 3 or 4 months ago.
So how does it compare to the non-FE version, or I guess it would be kind of like the baseline, because all of Samsung's Galaxy S series devices, they have steps on the ladder. You've got your basic, then you've got your step up, then you've got your ultra. FE is kind of below the basic, right? I mean, more or less, that's kind of where Samsung's positioning this. How does it compare?
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, so the S20 FE sits sort of just under the Galaxy S21 base model, and it's kind of a cut down version of the phone. But arguably, the S21 is already kind of a cut down version of the phone, and that's part of the problem that you run into talking about these two phones today, and that is the fact that when the S20 FE landed last year, which was, as you said, very popular phone. Everybody loved it. It arrived in a different sort of market for Samsung. So the Galaxy S20 at that time was it $1,000, $900? So the price difference was big. But now we're talking about only a $100 price difference between the S21 and the S21 FE, because Samsung did so much work cutting down the S21 to hit this newer, lower price. And this is one of my favorite phones of last year. And they switched to a Samsung's Glastic back, that sort of matte plastic, which I like a lot. They cut a couple of other corners, but because of that, there's now only $100 price difference. They also raised the price of the S21 FE compared to the S20 FE. So it's, even though, and I could talk a whole lot about the things I do like about this phone, I think that the question of value is different now, both because it was late, both because it's up against a different lineup as far as the rest of Samsung's flagships. All sort of comes together to mean maybe this isn't the sort of value killer like the last one was.
Is that primarily because, like you said, last year there was a wider price disparity between the two? Like now being close, it's kind of harder to, you end up in this position of like, well, for $100 more, I actually get a much better phone. So maybe I should do that. It also brings it closer to some of the other phones that are, right in the same ballpark that maybe don't consider themselves pared down versions of anything. They're just actually really great phones for a similar price.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's precisely the issue. You have the sort of like, the Motorola syndrome. You have so many phones at so many different price points that you get to the point that, well, for $50 more, for $100 more, and that's the issue Samsung has is there's for $100 more you can get the base model S21, which has more RAM, handful of other small improvements, but it is still a good phone. I like it a lot. The screen on it is excellent. I can't believe this isn't like an LTPO screen because it's just so uniform. At low brightness, some of the non-LTPO screens, they can be a little uneven. This is an exquisite screen. Either Samsung binned me a really good unit, or they really know how to make screens in less expensive phones now. I think the screen in here might actually be slightly better than the one in my S21. But yeah, the value proposition just isn't the same.
Can I ask you a question? Because you threw out LTPO, and this is the prime opportunity to kind of get some clarity on this. What is different about LTPO in a display technology? Why is it an improvement?
Oh, so it's a difference in, if I'm remembering correctly, and I might be talking a little bit out of my butt here, it's a difference in the backplane material, which affects, the sort of thin film transistors. I don't want to get too in the weeds here because I will talk for 20 minutes. Essentially, it can save power.
It's okay. This is a safe space, Ryan. You could do that. Go for it.
The very short version is that it's able to save power, so it uses less power doing the same sort of stuff, and it allows you to do variable refresh rate switching without, just better variable refresh rate switching, and you don't have to have that sort of flickering effect, which a lot of people don't really notice, but on older panels like the one in the Pixel 6 and the one in the Pixel 5, when the refresh rate changes between the two different modes, it actually adjusts the gamma, the profile of the display, when it's in the two different modes. And if you don't notice it, it won't be bothersome. I see it every time it happens, and it bothers the absolute crap out of me. So I really like this new display technology because it doesn't do that.
Nice. Awesome. I appreciate that explainer because I keep hearing about that technology and I haven't really done a whole lot of diving into exactly what differentiates it, but that sounds like an improvement. So, and so what you posted today, or actually this was yesterday, is a hands-on. I imagine you've got your SIM card in this phone, so you're working on a full review. So everybody can definitely check out what you have coming here in the future. But so everybody, AndroidPolice.com, you can find Ryan's work there, and be tuned into what Ryan thinks after spending more time with the device. Because at this point, it's really just like you've just had it for a short bit, and I know how this stuff works behind the scenes. There's only so much you can really talk about right now, but yeah.
Well, thankfully, I think there's only, I hope I'm not misremembering, there's a single stage embargo, so I can talk about anything right now. That's no big deal.
Okay, good.
But I've only had 2 days with the phone, so if you have any questions, I can answer them. I can show it while it's on. None of that matters. I just haven't had as much time with it to be able to do a fuller review as I usually like to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, everybody can tune in and check out your work, and once you have that review, we'll check it all out. Cool, thank you. I'm super curious about that. I hope I'm able to kind of get it in my hands and get my SIM card in there and check it out as well. Ron, this story had you written all over it.
Oh, so much had me. I actually saw this in my feed, and I was like, ooh, we got to talk about this. I saw you had it loaded in. I was very excited. So at CES, I got a good feeling this year about this being the year of the tablet. I just feel like we had a good momentum in 2021, and here we are 2022, and really the first CES story we're covering is a tablet. And not only is it a tablet, it's a wacky tablet. A French company called OLEDcom, which is weird, showed off its Li-Fi Max tab at CES. You might be wondering, what does Li-Fi mean? Well, this is the first Android tablet that uses Li-Fi to transfer data instead of Wi-Fi. So the quote from them is, the tablet allows all family members to connect to the internet through invisible light, providing a robust, stable, radio frequency-free connection with a signal that cannot be intercepted outside of the room. So Li-Fi is light-based internet. So it's like Wi-Fi, but without radio transmissions and things like that. It's actually transferring data through light. Okay. Wi-Fi latency is 100 times faster than Wi-Fi, which is just like, oh my God. But besides that, if we're looking at the tablet, it's a 10-inch tablet with 1920 by 1200 display with minimal specs. It's got a MediaTek processor, 4 gig of RAM, 64 gig of storage. You can buy it for €400, and it's available in February 22, which is in just a month from now. And you can transfer data via light. That's just amazing. I mean, clearly you need to be in the room as the Li-Fi hub, right? That is emitting this thing, and you can't go that far from it, you know. But like, I like how it says it's a signal that cannot be intercepted outside the room because you can't actually get to it outside the room.
Right. I mean, Wi-Fi, anyone could drive up to outside of your house, and if you don't have a password protected, you know, SSID, somebody can hop onto your Wi-Fi. That won't happen with Li-Fi. They got to be in the room. And so if someone you don't know is in the room using your Li-Fi, then you've got other problems.
Oh, and clouds too. You're in trouble.
And, yeah, exactly. That's true. Now, this is not new technology, by the way. This was first introduced 10 years ago. So Li-Fi as a wireless communication technology has been around for a while. Scooter X in chat says, stop trying to make Li-Fi happen. So it seems like this has been...
This has been like CES thing for at least the last decade. You hear a story every year or two about Li-Fi and the different applications. This is the first time I've ever heard of a product actually shipping that uses it, which is kind of cool. But this is fairly standard CES fare.
I gotta tell you, we were years ago. We were like foldable phones. That's just all. That's true. We're just gonna see that at CES, right? And here we are. I think Li-Fi. This might be the tipping point for Li-Fi, and it's gonna be.
I will say, looping back around, even though it's a bit of a non sequitur, one of the few phones I do love going back to. If you talked about me having a daily driver, is my Z Fold 3. I love this phone. It's so good.
Yeah. Very nice. Does it support Li-Fi? Huh?
It does not support Li-Fi, sadly.
That's what I thought. It's inferior to this random company OLED comms Li-Fi Max Tab. Just saying. Once they have a foldable that supports Li-Fi, then I think you found your next winner. We'll see. I don't know what happens with the Li-Fi technology development, if it matters. I mean, who has a Li-Fi router or whatever is required to transmit Li-Fi around the room? That's another challenge. Doesn't really exist very many places, I wouldn't imagine. But good on you, OLEDcom. You're the one that brought it to Android first, so we appreciate you. Also from CES is news that Samsung's new crop of 2022 TVs are going to... Okay, first, the biggest news. They're going to support NFTs. So cue, a bunch of random people rolling their eyes. Basically, you're going to be able to browse NFTs with a built-in marketplace aggregator on the TVs. What an interesting thing to just build into a TV. But I guess Samsung has a number of different apps that, as part of the smart TV platform. This is just hey, here's a way to browse NFTs and buy them. And
you can view all your pirated ones in the built-in gallery.
Oh, well, there you go. But you don't own them. You can't, you aren't on the blockchain when you do that. You're missing out. But also, and I think this is important for the growth of cloud gaming. Google Stadia, Nvidia GeForce Now support out of the box, so built into the TV. I just think that's super important, right? And that's actually, and you say what you will about Stadia, we've sat on both sides of that fence on this show. I know I have. I've had my times where I'm like, actually, Stadia is really cool. It's amazing what you can do. And then I've had my time going, Stadia, do better. Why, Google, you missed the boat here. Criticism all around. But I think what something like cloud gaming really needs is it needs to be everywhere for the value to be everywhere. And if it's built into the TV, essentially you're buying a TV and you're getting a game console with it is really at the end of the day what it is. And so I think that's good for Stadia. I think that's good for GeForce Now. It'll be part of the new Samsung Gaming Hub, which will also allow, from my understanding, people to take their console controllers and route them through Samsung Gaming Hub to control things like the Stadia integration. So that's cool. I don't know. Where do you stand on Stadia and cloud gaming, Ryan? Are you a big gamer? Like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I am a pretty big gamer. Well, I don't know if I actually characterize myself as that anymore. I just don't have the time to do it. But I do most of my gaming on PC. And because of that, because I already, I invest the money in having a machine that can do that, for me, there isn't a lot of advantage in cloud gaming. I wouldn't give up my higher settings and better quality for lower settings and increased latency and not own my games. But I do see the advantage for people who don't want to make that sort of investment, because like I spend way too much money on all of the stuff I have for work. My gaming machine is half work machine, so like I can sink money into that and consider it fine. But if gaming isn't something you can sink a ton of cash into, cloud gaming is very economical. If you look at the costs, and my understanding is that it's even cheaper than console gaming by a large margin, especially these days when you can't even get the latest generation of consoles. And there are a couple of drawbacks. I know that some titles, especially on Stadia with its sort of aging cloud infrastructure hardware, you don't necessarily get the same sort of quality level, same sort of game settings that you might on a console or on a PC. But you're spending so much less. If you have a fast internet connection with low latency to one of Stadia's servers, and you're not like super into games, you're not going to notice that there's a little more lag or the compression artifacts when it's being streamed in. So I do think that there is a place for it. I think that people are going to be into it for a very long time. I don't know if Stadia is necessarily going to be a part of that conversation for very long, but I do think the cloud gaming is here to stay.
That is the big question, right? What is the lasting power of Google Stadia as a platform, competing in the cloud gaming space? I mean, no question, like what Google is doing from a technological standpoint with Stadia is pretty impressive, but it kind of took them a while. Google did what Google does a lot. It's like they have this really cool thing, but then there's something about how they present it and launch it and roll things out slowly, and it just, I don't know, a lot of pieces fell through the cracks along the way, and I think it kind of slowed its adoption. But
was it, if there was any other script about how Google rolls out something like this, would it have gone any other way?
So the way I feel is that Stadia's shortcomings aren't even due to Stadia. And I've talked about this. I've wanted to pitch this editorial for so long, but Stadia content gets like no views. So it would be a total waste of time. But
that's an indication of something right there, though, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we've had a successful Stadia story, and I could not tell you how long. No one cares. But Stadia's biggest problem isn't Google. Stadia's biggest problem is the market. The issue is that the way the market is set up for all of this sort of streaming stuff, at least the way I see it, is that big publishers are going to dominate the space. It's going to be like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV. You're not going to have a big aggregator like Google who's like, we're going to sell you a bunch of titles from other publishers. Why would publishers agree to that if they can just spin up their own game streaming services and you can buy it directly from them? Why would they agree to lose money on a middleman when the ultimate goal, what the market's going to drive for, is for this, even greater a la carte separation down at the publisher, even the developer level? So I don't think that Stadia is ultimately doomed because of Google. I think that Stadia is ultimately doomed because the model is incompatible with the direction that the streaming market inexorably heads towards in every regard. It happened with streaming like movies and TV shows. The Netflix is doing their own content. Peacock's doing their own content. All of the different studios are spinning up their own. The exact same thing is going to happen to game streaming, in my opinion.
Man. You kind of blew my mind there a little bit. I had not considered that, but that makes a lot of sense. I could totally see EA, coming out with its own game streaming service, and you get access to all the EA games for X number, X amount or whatever. Yeah, that's interesting.
And the only way that Stadia can survive in a world like that is as a white label service. And I know Google was looking into that. They were considering providing the back end for others to do their own game streaming. And that is a potential avenue for, I wouldn't say success, but for Stadia to persist in some form.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, the example of that being AT&T, right? That was a couple of months ago, where Stadia kind of brought their technology to a partnership with AT&T centered around Batman Arkham Knight. And, Stadia wasn't mentioned anywhere. Truly like a white label thing. The only way that anyone ever really knew that there was Stadia behind the scenes was, on reporting that kind of dug into it. So, yeah. And that, does that keep Stadia relevant to some degree? Yeah, maybe. But is it enough to sustain the development of Stadia going forward? I guess that remains to be seen.
If they can get a bunch of customers and keep hardware improvements coming, ensure that they're making enough money off of the licensees to continue to reinvest in development for it, then it could happen. But I think that with the rise of edge computing, the ease of developing in the cloud, all of again, this isn't necessarily my area of expertise, but I suspect that even Google's advantage in terms of accrued development there and hardware might eventually not matter. So they have to do this fast. I think they need to get into white label like very, very quickly. Otherwise, they're going to lose the one advantage they have while the market lets them have that advantage, and then it'll be over.
Yeah. Yep. Right on. Good perspective. Cool stuff. All right. We've got a whole lot more hardware. I have in here non-CES coming up, but there's some CES stuff in here coming up.
There's no such thing as non-CES, Jason. It's all CES.
That's true. During CES week, it's all CES-ish. Although this story at the top of the block really isn't. I don't think this has, anything to do with CES. But let's talk about it anyways right now, and then we'll talk about some more CES stuff.
All right. So the Google Glass dream is still alive, thankfully. I know a lot of you were hoping that, whatever.
Oh,
but the New York Times has a report that says Google is nurturing a new product, quote unquote, a new project as part of its North acquisition last year. Not much more detail other than that, but it does make sense. Big tech seems to be chasing mixed reality and AR headsets right now. Apple's rumored to be working on its own AR hardware, and Meta, of course, has their hands in this too with Project Cambria for this year sometime. So obviously Google's going to get in on an AR kind of, device-like thing if just to keep up with the Jones in that regard. And the North acquisition, which happened in June of 2020, was for a Canadian company that was developing these kind of, it was a product called Focals. They had launched Focals 1.0, and they had decided to cancel Vocals 2.0. And now they were acquired in 20, and various, staff members from North are now part of Google, and they're in the devices and services division of Google. That's the same grouping as Pixel and Nest and other stuff. And apparently they're a team that's building an augmented reality OS. They're aligned with that team. So the pieces could be coming together for another attempt at some sort of AR device. My question is, will Google ever live down Google Glass? Like, can they even do it? From an audience standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Part of me wants to give Google a whole lot of props because, they were there first, really. I mean, they were the ones that really, went to market with literally went to market with a wearable, glasses product. Years before the rush by everyone else. Now everybody's kind of getting in on it. But I mean, it was a total failure. Like, I mean, maybe not a total failure. Google was able to figure out something, to market its glass for enterprise and do something else with it.
Holy cow!
But well, it did start the holy cow movement here on All About Android.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
As Ron rolls his eyes once more, but I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Do you think Google is in a position, considering Google was there in the beginning? Does Google capitalize off of that in any way, or do you think they kind of it's like they rolled out the carpet for the others to walk on?
I don't know. I'm not sure how much they learned from Glass from an engineering perspective, because I'm sure there was some value there. But if they're acquiring a whole new company to do this, like you said, this is off of the acquisition from North, there's no telling how much they're retaining from what they had developed before. Brand new OS, presumably, probably North-inspired hardware because they were doing their own AR glasses. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be able to use any of the things they learned previously when it applies to this. Maybe they can, but I would be going into this expecting they're going to be starting from scratch.
Yeah, kind of seems that way. North's Hardware, like I had to give them huge credit as far as all the wearables that I had ever seen in person. You know, the face wearables. North's Hardware looked the best. Like it looked as close to real glasses as possible. And you know, we still have no idea what Apple's solution is going to look like. You know, I don't know what Facebook's going to come up with. Part of me doesn't want to care, but I'm interested to see like the direction that they all go in. Google with Google Glass went in a really like sci-fi, like this looks not like nothing you've ever worn on your face before. And I remember in the beginning there was definitely a little bit of that energy of like, oh, and Google of course played this up, right? Like they put it on supermodels and stuff like that to really make it be like, yes, it's futuristic and it's different, but it's cool different. And then that kind of burned off and people just thought it looked dorky. With the partnership with North, can they make a wearable that that does what the new kind of crop of face wearables can do, but also doesn't look totally dorky? And and you don't want to put that on your face because holy cow, I don't want that on my face. With a lot of uncertainty as far as what Google will do with this, but I'm certainly curious. And hey, they were there first, so I got to give them a little bit of credit for that, at least. So we shall see. And I will say I'm super curious to know what Apple's working on as well. Their take on this stuff will be really interesting indeed. Okay, so we mentioned this earlier, and we're getting back around to it now. We're now back in CES again. I don't know why I did the order the way I did, but whatever. The OnePlus 10 Pro wasn't officially announced necessarily prior to the show. I mean, OnePlus had acknowledged that it existed and had shown off a few renders of the design of the device. They basically confirmed that it was going to launch in China next Tuesday. That's a week from today on December 11th, with no timeline for North America, Europe, or India. And Ryan, you actually wrote about that, but then you also wrote right before showtime that there was an embargo that lifted, and we know more about the OnePlus 10 Pro. So tell us what you think, or like what do they want us to know at this point? It's probably not everything, obviously, but what do they know?
Well, you know OnePlus's marketing. They tend to do everything they possibly can to try to dominate the news cycles for like 2 weeks ahead of a phone's launch. Drives me insane. I can't stand it. I hate it. It's so annoying. Having to write about every tedious new detail every day or two for 2 weeks straight is just god-awful.
It works, though, right? It totally works.
I guess it does, but I doesn't mean I mean,
from their perspective, it works because it continues to get articles written about it, instead of just
exactly, because if you don't do it, you fall behind. So it's all it's so annoying. I wish they would just do like a single launch like everybody else does. Whatever. So today they dumped a whole bunch of specs. Half of them don't matter. Aren't you glad to know the OnePlus 10 supports NFC and VoLTE? Like, great. These are marketable features that we should be putting on a spec sheet and revealing however long before launch. That's awesome. Excluding the superfluous and unnecessary details of today's announcement, there are a couple of interesting things to note. One is that the camera hardware, based on the numbers provided, which are not complete, it sounds like the camera hardware might be the same as the OnePlus 9. The resolution for the sensors, or the resolution for the triple cameras on the back of the phone, the dual OIS, those sound identical to last year's model. So unless they're using upgraded versions or different sensors that just happen to have the same resolution, which is possible, we might be looking at mostly software-based improvements for the camera, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Google demonstrated you can use the same sensor for like 4 years and still make great photos. If anything, they get better with time. So it could be OnePlus is going to fine-tune its performance here. But what I consider to be the most telling thing about today's announcement is the branding that OnePlus has opted to go for when it comes to both its wired and wireless charging. Now, I'm sure you remember OnePlus's Warp Charge, right? Everybody knows Warp Charge.
Yep.
Warp Charge is gone. It's not Warp Charge anymore.
Okay.
What is it?
They're calling it SuperVOOC for the wired charging and AirVOOC, if I'm pronouncing these correctly, for the wireless charging.
VOOC.
Yeah, those are the OnePlus marketing terms. So Sorry, those are the Oppo marketing terms. So this is like more of the Oppo-fication of OnePlus. Following the merger, now we're losing OnePlus's branding for features. They're going to give it the Oppo name. So I'm not too excited about the seemingly increased influence Oppo has over everything OnePlus. We lost Oxygen OS, which used to be great. Now it's just a Color OS skin. We're losing branded features, and these are some of the best features about the OnePlus phone. The fast charging is the fastest you can get in the United States. It used to charge at 65 watts, and now it's 80 in the new phone, which is great. But like these highly marketable features are no longer going to be associated with OnePlus. They're going to be associated with Oppo, which speaks weirdly for me of the future here.
Yeah, and I think that was my big question coming in here is, what is the state of OnePlus going into 2022? We talked about this a little bit. Ron, you and I talked about this last month. I can't remember if it was the last live episode. I think it was, where we kind of talked a little bit about, how OnePlus has really changed in the last year or two from a public sentiment perspective, and encapsulating everything you just talked about, Ryan, all of the changes, the Oppo-fication, as you put it. I like that. And what that means for OnePlus's brand identity, which for a while, at least in the realm of the enthusiast, was really strong. Like OnePlus had a very solid kind of enthusiast brand identity, brand recognition. A lot of enthusiasts really cared about what OnePlus was doing. But I've noticed, I've perceived a big shift in the last year, and that comes along with they're appearing in carrier stores to a wider margin. So maybe there's this perception that before it was kind of a boutique thing that you had to know about to get, and now everybody can get it. So maybe that some of the luster, some of the shine is gone as a result of that. Maybe it's the deal with Hasselblad. I don't know. Like I don't really care about that. Like I think the camera system on the last major device was pretty good. So I don't know if Hasselblad deserves all the praise for that, or if that's a OnePlus marketing win, or what it is. But what do you think of the state of OnePlus as we head into 2022? Are they not as special as they once were at this point?
I would say that they definitely aren't. It's clear to me that their strategy has shifted from targeting the sort of enthusiast audience you describe, the people who buy pixels, the people who root and ROM. The root and ROM crowd is sort of a shrinking community. I don't think it's growing, though I don't have any numbers really to back that up, just a gut feeling. And the same thing goes for the pixel audience is going to buy really the pixel if they can afford to do that. The OnePlus was for a long time sort of the poor man's pixel. But with rising costs at OnePlus and falling costs at Google, I think that they've kind of lost that. And so wisely, they tried to expand into a larger market. They wanted to try to take some of LG's out of the market. They can take some of that market share. They can attack Samsung at the low end, which they're doing with the Nord series, especially with their T-Mobile partnership. So I think that that's really what they're trying to do, is they're just trying to capture market share, period. They don't care who it is anymore. They want to sell phones. And so if that means alienating the core, admittedly small, admittedly declining group, they're willing to do that. They don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it really does seem like things have shifted.
It's not so much. Yeah, and things are. I don't want to say things haven't shifted, because they have shifted. But I feel like this is what happens with corporate alignment, and it's almost as if like it was time to pay the check. Like the bill came in, like like OnePlus took the investment from Oppo. They had the strategic partnership, and Oppo said, "Go do what you're going to do for all those years," and they did all that stuff. And now Oppo's like, "Okay, great. Now come back to the mothership," and it gets a little more. I don't say sellouty, because it's not like they sold out, but it gets a little less edgy, a little less daring, a little, and a little safer. And
it gets a little less differentiated. OnePlus had a very specific kind of identity, and now the two have blurred together, and so it makes it less special. It makes it feel less unique, I suppose. Maybe that's it. A little bit more like cut and paste approach, which doesn't feel as compelling, I guess.
Yep. So, Oh, OnePlus. Well, I feel like now we're on like the downer train. But for those of you who are Surface Duo fans out there, I know we were waiting with bated breath to see when it was going to get Android 11, and it didn't happen before the end of the year. Microsoft continues to postpone updating the device with the major update. February 21, they said they were going to receive Android 11 by mid-year. Didn't happen. Then in September, Microsoft said it would get Android 11 by the end of the year. Didn't happen. And now it's Android 20. It's 2022, and there's still no update to Android 11. It hasn't received any bug fixes since July, and in total, that's 15 months since it launched and since the last major update to the device. Which is not only horrible, but it's embarrassing and really makes you wonder what Microsoft's commitment to the device is or was. And you got to worry about the Surface Duo too, and like anything, like it's just this isn't how you do hardware. It seems to me, it seems like the product is not perfect. It doesn't need to be updated. Right? It's like, oh man,
and Google can't be happy that they're not delivering their. Oh my God, I said the words. Stop.
Oh, you did.
What do you want? I'm here to help you.
But Google can't be happy that they're probably violating the MATA, because I think they're required to deliver a minimum of quarterly updates. So if the phone's more than 6 months behind, oof, that's not good.
Not good.
Yeah,
not good.
That's not good. Actually, Scooter X in the chat just posted a link to another story on Windows Central posted today with Microsoft basically saying we're finalizing the validation and certification for Android 11. We originally planned to deploy as an update for Surface Duo in December, but we needed a few more weeks to ensure a great experience for Surface Duo customers. We expect to begin Android 11 rollout in the next few weeks, beginning with unlocked devices. So sure, it's a couple of weeks of delay. It's really unfortunate that it ends up taking it to the next calendar year because people clue into that, reporters clue into that. When you say by the end of the year, people are going to hold you to it. And this is a couple of promises that Microsoft made. And like I said, granted, it's only a couple of weeks later, that it's supposedly going to actually roll out. But still, it matters. It surprises me, actually. Maybe it shouldn't, but it surprises me that a company like Microsoft couldn't just bang this out and make it happen on their one, at the time, their one mobile Android device.
It's their bet, right? It's their bet to show that they've got a foot in Android and they're not following through. I don't know.
I will say, have you ever used like a Surface laptop, a Surface tablet, any of the other Surface hardware? All this pants. Briefly, none of this is out of the pale. Like they deliver buggy kind of bad hardware with weird random issues. They fail to fix it, and then rather than fix it, they release a new model. That is the Microsoft mantra. None of this surprises me. I would not buy another Microsoft hardware product if it was free.
Oh. Yeah, that's a statement right there. But good to know. I know for a while, Leo was using the Surface Studio for a lot of his podcasts in the main room. I don't know. So
I do hear good things about that. That might be an exception. I do hear very good things about that. But I've had a couple of Surface tablets, and they all have weird, random, annoying, frustrating issues that just never get fixed. They release a new model.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. No good. So there you are. You're taking it. Unfortunately, that means that you're taking a chance when you buy the Surface Duo 2, which supposedly fixed some of the problems of the original. Yeah, kind of sounds like don't do it. I think you might be right? There you go. All right. We are reaching near the end of the show. We've got a few emails here, AAA@twit.tv. If you want to send us an email, you can do that. That's coming up right now. All right. We got an email from, hold on, it's large enough that it's off my screen here. Maxim. Thank you for writing in, Maxim. This is a little bit of a longer email, so I'll rattle through it here real quick. Maxim says, it's a new year. I'm bringing back an old topic. That's right. I'm bringing back tablet talk. It hasn't been brought up since last year. We've talked about it a little bit. But anyways, my email is a two-parter. Part one, I bought a Lenovo P11 Pro about the same time as Ron. Been using it very regularly, and I'd like to put my 2 cents in about it. Hardware-wise, one of the best tablets I've experienced. However, when it comes to software, it's not great in certain situations. The most annoying thing about this tablet for me is using it with a Precision Pen 2. That's the stylus that Lenovo themselves bundled with the tablet. The global pen button shortcuts cannot be disabled or remapped, and they always run on top of in-app button functions and shortcuts, even in the pre-installed note-taking apps that come with the tablet. In the beginning, it was very annoying just ending up on the home screen or opening the smart navigation pane every time I press the button for an in-app erase shortcut. Okay. Part two, the software issues with the pen got so annoying to me that I flashed, is it Fuson's AOSP 12 GSI ROM on my tablet, and I'm currently testing it out to see if it's worth losing out on things like all the Dolby services that Lenovo built into their version of Android. But on the bright side, my Precision Pen 2 works on this custom ROM right out of the box. There are no annoying global pen button remappings. So this leads to his question. How do we all feel about custom ROMs in general? Have we used them before? Do we like them? And, you know, I think we've kind of talked a little bit about this a little bit earlier. Kind of the general state of ROMs has seemed to slow down. That's not your real question, though, Maxim. It's like, how do we feel about ROMs? And I mean, if you're new to the show, then you probably don't know that, like, in the early episodes, probably the first like 4 or 5 years of All About Android, I was obsessed with ROMs, and flashing. I was really into it to the point
you were doing daily ROM flashes and all that stuff.
Oh gosh!
And the best was on show days when it didn't work and you were scrambling to get your phone working again. Like, oh man, I loved it when Jason was like a master ROMer. It was awesome.
It was like how I killed time at night on the couch, you know, like watching a show or something like that. Meanwhile, I'm flashing a new ROM because it was magical. It was like, okay, I've reached the capacity of this device, but now there's this new like software that I can, if I go through the work, I can put it on my device and it opens up this new playing field. It either looks different or it enables this option or this feature that I couldn't do before. It was truly about maximizing my use, my capabilities with my device. But at a certain time, and we have talked about this on the show before, at a certain time, point in time, the capabilities of our devices were so built out that our reasons for feeling like we needed to or wanted to flash ROMs kind of started to kind of trickle off, right? Like they were already offered in the software. The software was not as buggy. It was already very capable. We could already customize it in the ways that we used to need a ROM in order to do that. So I think the ROMs and the creation of them and the community around it is amazing. It's one of the things that I love about Android. It's just not something that I do very much anymore. How do you all feel about ROMs at this point, kind of in 2022? What do you think?
Ryan?
So I haven't used one for a while myself.
No, neither have I. I haven't flashed one in quite a while. I don't even know the last time that I flashed a ROM. I just haven't. I mean, it's been years at this point. Just don't really need to. But you know, you take your tablet and there was this feature that was really annoying you and you had an alternative, right? Like you had an option. If Lenovo wasn't going to give you the ability to change that global pen button shortcut or whatever you wanted to do with it, heck, this other person over here that built this ROM for your tablet made it possible. And that's just really cool. You can't do that on iOS, you know? That's what I love about Android.
Yeah, I love that it exists. It's not something that I have the time to play with, but I love that the option is there. If someone wants to go in that direction, they can. So
totally.
I was debating actually this very weekend because I was thinking again about the upcoming awesome phone. I got to talk to the founders late last year about it, and we spent this wasn't in the interview, but we spent like half the time geeking out about the build materials that they used for the Essential PH1 because I love to talk about that stuff, especially because they were one of the first companies and the only company really to do titanium frame, ceramic back, all of these super premium materials. So I was going this weekend to flash Lineage OS on my PH1 and see what the phone was like again, reusing it on a more modern ROM today. But CES prep, I didn't have time. One of these days, I will do it.
Good. But you're opening a can of worms on that stuff, because I also remember, picking out my ROM and thinking it was going to go so easy, and then being up for like 3 hours and being like, why isn't this working? But by God, it was my device. I needed to get it to a point where I could use it. So, sometimes you open that can of worms and you can't put them back in. Yeah, fun times. All right, you got the next one, Ron.
All right. Next email comes from Hilton from Virginia, who says, have you had any trouble with charging your Pixel 6? I have a Pixel 6 Pro and noticed lately that it seems to run warm and charge inconsistently. I thought it was a problem with my third-party wireless quick charging stand, but then I noticed on a trip it never charges in the car either. I have a wireless quick charger there as well. I also got the Pixel Stand 2 recently and used its included cable and charger, but no change. I never had any issues with my old Pixel 4 XL, but with my 6 Pro, I see the battery is usually above 105 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the battery settings, it will show connected but not charging, or charging with some ridiculous time remaining like a day or so until charged. I see in a Google search that a lot of people seem to be reporting this. Just wondering if you noticed it or knew someone at Google that could speak about this issue.
So I have a little bit to share about this. The December update and I believe the recent patch notes for the January update both contain some fixes for wireless charging. Secondarily, I know the Pixel Stand 2, the new Pixel Stand for the Pixel 6 Pro, full functionality for it, full charging speed won't be delivered and wouldn't have been delivered until the December update, which has been postponed, and you won't get till January. So I know that some of the recent patch notes for the last couple of updates, which of course the Pixel 6 hasn't gotten right, address specifically wireless charging. So I would suspect it's going to be fixed when the January update rolls out, and you'll get full charging speed off of your Pixel Stand 2 once the January update rolls out.
Oh, yeah. You nailed it. That's what you got to wait for. And it's unfortunately you have to wait for it. But that's where we're at right now with the Pixel 6. It's just the way it is. Yeah, it sucks. I haven't noticed any issues. Like I'm wireless charging my 6 Pro on the previous Pixel stand, which I have downstairs. I don't have the upgraded one, the latest one, but seems to be charging fine to me. Yeah, no charging issues on my end, but it sounds like that's probably what you're looking at, Hilton.
Likewise. I haven't seen any problems. So
yeah. Yep. Thanks for writing in, though. And if others out there have had issues, let us know, AAA@twit.tv. And finally, it is time for the very first of 2022 Email of the Week. All right. Jerome wrote in to say, after listening to several conversations you've had about devices that belong in the Android Hall of Fame, I was surprised that a few devices were never mentioned. And I should just throw in here real quick, if you listen to the best of, the last clip that we included in the best of was a clip that wasn't from the show at all. It was from a Discord chat that we did for Club Twit members. And it was basically the three of us kind of talking about like, well, what will we have in the Android Hall of Fame? And it was just so much fun. We decided to put it in the best of. I think that's part of what Jerome is writing in about. So if you haven't checked out the best of, check it out, if anything, for that conversation, because you probably missed it if you're not a member of Club Twit. Anyways, back to the email. Says, what about the T-Mobile G1, the phone that started it all? Without it, Android wouldn't be where it is now, so I feel it is worthy of inclusion. Personally, I feel it should be the inaugural inductee. And I'll read these piece by piece. Do we agree that a Hall of Fame device pick should be given to the T-Mobile G1? I never had it, but it is the first consumer Android device. It's notable.
Here's the thing: is as the person who came up with the Android Hall of Fame concept, I feel like the criteria for the phone needs to be stated before you start considering who gets in and who doesn't get in. And for me, the criteria is a memorable phone in terms of both functionality and longevity, in terms of design, industrial design, and how good of a phone it was. right?
Well, I mean, back during that era, none of them lasted very long. So I don't know if necessarily that's fair. A lot of those phones got updates for like 6 months, 8 months at best.
Exactly, I think that's the thing. I had the T-Mobile G1. It was fun to it was fun to use when I got it because it was the first Android phone. It was not a good phone. It was flimsy. It was plastic. I was worried it was going to break. It did have a trackball, which is pretty cool. But the thing about the Hall of Fame is, and you can't just go willy-nilly letting anybody in, right? Like there's got to be a level. And sure, there's honorarium for G1 being the first. But we're not talking like Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon kind of thing. Like the first guy to play baseball isn't in the Hall of Fame, right? Ty Cobb is, right? So you gotta set the bars, So
we could give it an honorable mention for most satisfyingly clicky. But
yes,
wait, I did it wrong. The snap out. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
It was very satisfying. Yeah.
But by the way, Ryan probably has every single phone we're about to list here.
I'm sure.
I got a Sooner.
Within
Have
reach.
you seen that? That's a cool one.
We have had it on the show. I haven't seen it in person, but yeah, that's pretty. And meanwhile, that would be notable, but it wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, right? Like that's,
right. You see,
that's notable.
That's the distinction. And my thought about it is that like the Hall of Fame is a no-brainer. You don't think about it. You're like, yeah, that's all. Like the Nexus 5, that is a Hall of Fame device. That device was perfect for the time. It did what it needed. It delivered a quality service for more than a year. Like it was great. I'm saying like when you go visit the Hall of Fame, there's an exhibit about the history of Android, and the G1 is there, but it's not in the Hall of Fame. So
I think that's actually fair.
Yeah, it's the display that you get to look at while you're in line to enter the big room with the Hall of Fame, and it's got like a write out, like the very first Android phone was the.
And I'll be
timeline
honest,
on the wall while you're walking in.
Yeah, exactly, the history. And I'll be honest, I will be the hardest critic of who gets in and who doesn't get in because you got to have standards. You can't let anybody in.
You will. Okay, so then continuing on with the email, and also backed up by our own Victor in Slack, who just said, with that criteria, I would start with the ... and I'll read the rest of the email here. Our emailer Jerome said, you also neglected to include the Samsung Galaxy S3. I think, what does it say here? I think with this was the device. I think that this was the device that established Samsung as the top Android manufacturer. Prior to this device, the Galaxy S2 was still stuck in the grip of carrier politics. Hence why there were 4 versions in the US. And oh my goodness, I remember that era where you had 4 different versions of a device, and that really, really sucked. The S3 was an incredibly popular device. It was totally a flagship marquee moment for Samsung where it crossed over. And I mean, it was from the S3 and on that Samsung dominated with its S series. I actually back this up. I think this deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. What do you think?
I agree with the original logic because I think the implication here is that you guys had the S2 and not the S3, and the success of the S3 was built, in my opinion, on the S2. The S3 didn't succeed because the S3 was such a good phone. The S3 succeeded because it was the phone that came out after the S2, and the S2 cemented Android's position for all of the carriers, for all of the customers. Ooh. Until then, Android wasn't what it was until the S2.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so would you then push for the S2 over the S3? That's
absolutely.
Ah, okay. Interesting. I'm liking the way this is going. What do you think, Ron?
I mean, I'm not a Samsung guy, so I can't attribute personal kind of usage of it, but I'm going down memory lane and I'm looking at the S3 and I'm looking at the S2. And while I agree with both points being made about the importance in the history of Android, I don't think the device itself is Hall of Fame worthy.
Really?
So,
but that said, go to the next one, Jason.
I know we're going to get tons of emails about this stuff, by the way.
I love it.
Jerome continues, we also can't exclude the Galaxy Note. It seems fair to say all big phones today owe their existence to this one device. What do we think?
I think the Note is a Hall of Fame device because it changed the paradigm, it changed the game, and it launched a whole line, and it drove the growth of phones happened because Samsung took a chance on the Note.
Well, hold on, because that's almost the exact same argument you used to invalidate the G1. You said it had to be a good
right. I was going to say
phone.
the same thing. Totally. I'm happy you caught that because I was going to call him out on that too. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, totally. Hey, see these rules? They're
you see,
they're
now
fluid.
I didn't use. Yeah, they're fluid, and I didn't use the Note myself either. The same. I'm anti any Samsung, to be honest with you. But that's a good point. So. we should remind everybody that the only phone that is firmly ensconced in the Hall of Fame up to this point is the Nexus 5. I think we've discussed other potential devices being put in there, but I don't think we've actually written them down. And I need someone to keep track of when we talk about these to make sure that we're consistent. Like where's the wiki when we need it?
Yeah. I should. We have a tab in our rundown doc that says randomness. I should put these in there because
on that, put the Hall of Fame in there.
On that Discord chat, we did kind of like that was kind of part of what that was. It was an on the spot kind of like Hall of Fame picks and stuff. Yeah. So we should at least have those in there. And then Jerome says, I would also add the original Droid as well, because let's face it, T-Mobile didn't have the cloud in 2007 that it does today. The Droid on Verizon got Android into more hands. I mean,
sure. That's a good point.
I was a Droid user. I would back that up. I thought it was, but at the same time, like I feel like I'm more emotional about the Droid pick than I am like what is its true importance. I mean, it really was the device that at that time brought Android into the public kind of knowledge space in a major way. Like everybody remember those commercials, the Droid commercials, and it seemed like a pretty darn important device at the time. Of course, I bought into it, so I'm more emotional about it. What do you think, Ryan?
So I didn't have one, but I agree that it should actually be on this list, and I would put this as your first inductee after the Nexus 5 because it was such a successful phone, and it was such a successful phone because it was
super successful.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that Verizon spent a ton of money marketing it because I think I got this from the Chet Hayes' Android book, but they were pissed that they didn't have the iPhone, so they spent a ton of money fighting AT&T by marketing the crap out of this Android phone they got.
Yeah.
And so a lot of its success does come down to marketing, but a lot of its success also does come down to it was just a pretty good phone. Now, at the time, phones sucked. There weren't a lot of good phones, especially outside of the iPhone. Like Android phones kind of had some drawbacks. The Droid was very good, though.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first Android phone, was the Motorola Droid. And when we're talking about, rooting and ROMing and all that stuff, that was the device that I was doing it with. I mean, at least initially, because I kind of hit the capacity of what it could do. And the ROM scene around it, it was just super compelling. So it was a fun device. I had so much fun with that device. Anyways.
I mean, the thing is, like, if we wanted to take this all seriously, like I would, like going back to the HTC One, like, do you remember the HTC M7? Like that phone was a game changer too in terms of the design. And remember we were complaining about how all phones looked the same. And then you had this like, kind of different approach to it. It's like they're different. It's like it's such a mix of the phone itself and its moment in time and what it meant for. And Ryan, to your point, like the marketing around it and how it affected the community. A lot of nuance to making these decisions. It's not an easy decision, and I think all of these are really good things to consider. And Jason, I feel like what we might need to do is we might need to go back in time and look at what we've already discussed so far, right? Because I feel like we talked about Chromecast getting in there, and I feel Nvidia was it Nvidia Shield? Did that get in there too?
Shield.
I thought we were talking about that.
Yeah,
Possibly.
definitely be in there.
Yeah, what I think we do is I think we set a date like later this year for like the induct. Like we should make a program out of this. Have like this is going to be the Hall of Fame day when we're going to induct exactly. And like we should really build something out of it. I think so.
Android deserves a Hall of Fame. Dang it!
It does.
It deserves pomp and circumstance. By the way, you mentioned the HTC One, the HTC M7, which I forgot that it was the M7, but the HTC One. And I'm looking at a picture of it, and I realized that my interpretation of that device now is is tainted by the fact that so many damn devices came out after the fact that looked identical to it, that now when I look at it as the originator, I'm like, even though, you know what I mean? All of the Chinese knockoff phones that came out after the HTC One had that like aluminum. I mean, they were all super interchangeable, and it feels to me like it started right around the HTC One era, and so it was cool at the time. And now with history, you know, it's not as cool, but it was then. Anyways. Fun times. That's why, Jerome, your email was the email of the week. So thank you for sending it in.
That was a Hall of Fame email, I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was good. That was fun. And a Hall of Fame episode, if I do say so myself. Ryan Hager, thank you so much for joining us this week. And anytime you're on, we just really appreciate your time. AndroidPolice.com is where you're writing. If people want to follow what you're up to, where can they find you? And I imagine, if you want to, you can tease anything you have coming up. But I imagine the thing that people are, can look forward to is your review of the S21 FE.
I have the S21 FE coming up. Further out, I have a couple of other plans. We'll see if any of them actually pan out. You know how it is. You pitch something, we'll see. But I do have, as always, I write fun stuff. I write good stuff. And you can come read my fun and good stuff at Android Police, or follow my some of my garbage takes, like my take on Stadia and marketing and blah, 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 at Ryan Hager on Twitter. I spell my name oddly, so you'll need to look that up. Just Google it. You'll probably find it.
Right on, Ryan. I don't think your takes are garbage takes. I thought the Stadia points that you were making around Stadia were actually really, really poignant. So thank you for sharing
most of that stuff off of Twitter. I generally talk about my cabin there. It's just pretty much just the cabin Twitter. The cats. That's it. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you for taking time. Happy New Year. It's great to see you again, and we will have you back very soon. Appreciate it, Ryan. Ron, what do you want to talk about? What do you want people to know?
Not much. New year, same me. You can follow me at Twitter and Instagram at RonXO. It's that time of year. If you enjoy Christmas trees, discarded Christmas trees, you might want to tune into my Instagram account because I am cataloging the trees I see around the neighborhood. Because I like to do that. I don't know why. I started doing it because I thought it was funny when I saw a discarded Christmas tree in August in San Francisco. And now it's become a thing where people send me pictures of their discarded Christmas tree. I didn't ask for it. It just happens. So yeah. And of course, go check out Scorebit. If you're into pinball, you can download the Scorebit app in the Google Play Store and keep track of your scores and find places to play pinball and do cool stuff like that. But yeah, that's it for me.
Right on. Thank you, Ron. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And to a wonderful 2022 on All About Android. Big thanks to Burke at the studio for pushing buttons, doing the news bumper, breaking news, all that kind of stuff with us, and applauding himself. Pretty appropriate. Also, big thanks to Victor behind the scenes for editing this show, making it happen so that you actually get it in your ears and your eyes after the fact. Couldn't do it without Victor as well. You can find me on Twit at twit.tv. You're already there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Doing Tech News Weekly with Micah Sargent every Thursday. So twit.tv/TNW. Find me on Twitter at Jason Howell. Anything important that I need to post, I'll probably do it there. Don't forget twit.tv/ClubTwit. That's Club Twit, where we offer all of our shows with absolutely no ads. We remove the ads, so you get an ad-free feed of every show that you want no ads in. You also get an exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed, a bunch of extra content in there. Ant Pruitt, who's the community manager of Club Twit, is just killing it. He's doing all these awesome AMAs with folks on the Twit network. And at this point, it's like rolling out on a weekly basis. I think the next one is Andy Anatko coming up. Really cool stuff. And then a members-only Discord, $7 a month. So twit.tv/ClubTwit. But that's it for this episode of All About Android. Just go to twit.tv/AAA. Everything you need to know about this show can be found there. We publish our show each and every Tuesday evening. So subscribe. Then you don't even have to think about it. It'll just appear on your phone like magic. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Happy New Year.
Yay, Happy New Year.
2022.
Hey, you don't have to wait till the weekend to get the tech news you need. Join Jason Howell and myself, Micah Sargent, for Tech News Weekly, where we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news.